Do that tonight. Everybody has a bit of a blurb about him. Anton was part of the 1974 Chelsea side. They won the FA Cup. He actually came on as a sub and scored the winning goal. His career was cut short by his extravagant lifestyle of drink, drugs and spoken word poetry evenings. After this, he took up haiku as a means to make sense of the loss of football in his life. One of his first collections being From Wembley to Wine Alley on the haiku line, which went down great and great reviews. Actually, I'll stop that nonsense. Anton was born in Egypt of Irish, Maltese, English and French Lebanese descent. So it seems to me you're not just the one father, Anton, you're four fathers. And you lived through the Cypriot struggle for independence, and your family were evicted at gunpoint from their Nicosia home by Turkish Cypriot militiamen. No, that's it. He studied English at Trinity and is a postgraduate of UCC. Having lived and worked in the Eastern Mediterranean as a teacher, head teacher, artistic director and producer, he now teaches in Cork City. His poems have been published in the Stony Thursday book, the Ghent Review, Live Encounters, the Shot Glass Journal, Chronog, Visual Verse, Contemporary Haikun Online, and Haiku in Shamrock. He won the IHS, Irish Haiku Society, international competition in 2014, and his prize winner in 2016. He is a member of the Irish Haiku Society. He lives in a renovated farmhouse home in West Cork with caravan, where they garden organically, transforming a rocky and watery place into their own Eden. And I saw pictures of the garden there before, so I can verify that. Anton's going to do some of his work for the next 30 to 40 minutes and maybe give some background to his work as well in between. And I'll just leave it there and make a big round of applause for Anton. Thanks.
I'm just going to use a stool because my back is not what it used to be.
Chelsea football, isn't it?
Chelsea football. Thank you very much for that cue. I've been a teacher most of my professional life, and when you're in the teaching game, it's very difficult to find time to do other things. And I've always been writing poetry, and it's only been in the last 3 or 4 years that I've sort of gone about it in a very single-minded way. And I started writing haikus in exchange of letters with my son Daryl in France. And he went on to start taking photographs, and I kept on with the haikus. So I'll read a selection of them. They're anthologized in this Between the Leaves, which is just published this year, and there are about 11 of my poems in it, and it's new haiku writing from Ireland. It's published by the Irish Haiku Society. It's available from Kenny's bookshops online if you're interested. It's a marvellous discipline and one I would strongly recommend for budding poets. So I'll be reading a few haiku and then moving on to longer poems. So this was the prize-winning poem in 2014. Waiting in sheaths of ice, blades of grass. Wren song filling the valley, the ping of crystal. Mountainside, waterfall pours, colonnade of light. The wind spilling starlings into the sky. Night swim in mountain water, touch of the moon. Evening sky, in the blackbird's song, sheens of red. Moonlight on fresh snow, the silence sparkles. The fountain, each water drop, a short silvery life. March winds part the beads of rain, blue sunlight. Then one day, in ordinary dress, cuckoo. Primed for the thaw, the ice blue egg. Willow willies score April winds, the pliable tempo. Sun-baked riverbed, dust takes flight, seeking rain. Light slants, anointing oranges in the bowl. Honking grease, honking geese, mirrored in the lock, fly in silence. His books in the cardboard box, reliquary. So that concludes the haiku. I was sort of debating whether this should be a sort of a narrative journey of a biography through poetry, and I have to say that of all the poems that I've written, I find it very difficult to make the selection, and Carol Ann has done that for tonight, so she takes the blame. This is a poem called Harcourt Street, and it's prefaced by a little bit of an extract from an Anglo-Saxon poem. It's The Seafarer, and it relates to a time when I was a student in Dublin. So I'll read it in the Anglo-Saxon first, with the translation. Singeth Summer's word, sorge biodeth, bitter in breast hoard. The guardian of summer sings, bodes a sorrow grievous in the soul. My life has changed since then, that attic bedsit, up 5 flights of creaky stairs, my room in Harcourt Street, next to the plush hotel, Georgian home once to shore. A short walk to Grafton Street, Bewley's Cafe and Trinity. A student budget overruled all other considerations. The halitosis of the shared toilet that gargled like a sore throat. It was a building of ghosts, the sounds of doors closing, the wash of constant traffic like restless waves, the faint blue of the gas fire, its heat faint as a distant star. I never met the man next door, but imagined him sad-faced, who had lost the urge to speak, who coughed all night, fixing the sound in my mind of endured loneliness. This poem is called First Date Limerick, and it was selected for poetry April Poetry Month in Limerick, and they made a poster of the poems, and they're distributed around the city. So this is the first time I went on a date with my now wife. So first date, Limerick, April 1972. You were late, and as it was Limerick, April 1972, it was raining heavily. We were soaked through, the first of many soakings, so any port in a storm would do. Café Capri on Patrick Street, a greasy spoon, and in neon an unlikely scene for love, unless you bilocate as St. Anthony did, his statue sitting on the counter. We find ourselves taking the empty table at the alfresco cafe in the print, gaudily framed, a piazza in Anna Capri that overlooks our Formica table. Before you knit your fingers for warmth round the mug, you stir your cappuccino. I see a pirouetting dancer in a white lace tutu, just like the one we discovered you drew as a child on the bedroom plaster when years later we peeled back the old wallpaper. Soon after that courtship in the summer, we cycled out to Loch Gur in County Limerick, and this poem emerged from it, and it's included in the forthcoming publication of the Loch Gur Historical Society. They put out a journal every 2 years. So this is Loch Gur, summer 1973. A summer Sunday morning, Limerick is humid. We cycle out of the city. The haze, like a miasma, is already swallowing the spire of St. John's. Alone on the road, it's good to be out of the city, like voiding a confessional. The roadside grasses, the dappled hedgerows are flags to spur us on, until we catch a first view of water, a horseshoe lake, a clear, unpeopled space, Loch Gur serene and supple as a swan's neck. The limpid lake in the day's sun is now an eye, now a polished mirror. It carries the sky and the world to its heart. A place both here and beyond makes possible belief, the goddess ambushing us into being at one with the rise and fall of her land song. The cold water alerts the skin like fire. Ripples lap us, a circle dance, seeking alignment with the shore. To plunge in this total immersion is to feel an ancestral touch, seaming the present with the past, to sense the power of the lake to grant succession over all who have come and gone, over all who will come and go, over all that is dull and terrible in the telling of the stars and stones. This poem is a ghazal, and some people believe that the ghazal was the origin of the sonnet form. But they're couplets. There's a repeated refrain and an internal rhyme. And this ghazal is called You, and it's a courtship poem. Now, the couplets don't necessarily have to relate in a sequential order logically. And it's a Persian poetic form. Vital the thought that is thought about you. There is no life in this life without you. The reason I reach for that mountain top is because non-stop I want to shout you. My words spring up in a fizz of bubbles. Crazed by your love, I babble and spout you. I dismiss other needs, you're all I desire. My muse, you inspire me to cry out you. That you can love still and still hold your nerve is the verve that moves in and throughout you. Hapless the stuff of a tragic ballad, I am mad and dangerous without you. Right now I can only direct my gaze, bend my knee, praise the pure, the devout you. Just a quantum of you fills up my void, truth unalloyed, all my thought is about you. And this is a little sonnet here. It's called Oh Those Halcyon Days. So this is all the romantic bit. Oh, those halcyon days, that uncomplicated time when we were young, when your barefoot run careered the slope of a summer green field, your long hair streaming loosely behind you, and you blithe in the balmy air, your arms outspread as if ready for flight. Time made things, all things simple, lovely as honeysuckle climbing in the catching light. This poem is called This the Boy, and it's about Aegon, and it's written after I'd been reading the Greek poet Elitis. And he grew up in Cyprus, and so this poem has a lot of the Cypriot imagery in it. This the boy, bare-skinned, deeply tanned, tousled hair bleached, his radiating curls like the rays of the sun in a child's every day as summertime drawing. These the days when hayrick giants cross barefoot fields, harvesting childhood sunshine. This the country, the hillside vineyards slur the summer haze, where the still air clings to citric suns ripening, and cicada trees keen the overheat in ever mesmerizing echo drones. This the land dry as olive bark, parched as powdered chalk, a scorpion is a medallion of stone, and under Byzantine domes, shouldering the press of noon, the golden icons of the risen Lord glow. So it's a bit missing. This is written for Piers, my second son, and it's called Love's Hyperbole, and it was written for his birthday, and the imagery is again of the Mesoeorian plain in Cyprus. Love's Hyperbole. You make love's hyperbole normal. You are born with the sun rising like a halo. You gleam like sea foam. The clear blue dome of the sky invades your eyes. We see in them the world made new, fantastical. News of you stirs the breeze, and myriads of spring flowers dance over the spreading plain. The carnival colours are magical. Mountains rise in high salute. They promise you endurance, the time to form a simple life that is both true and classical. When Daryl was small, we were watching a falcon in flight, and so I wrote this poem for my third son, Daryl. It's called Daybreak Stirs on Shehi Moor. These are sonnets. The last one was a sonnet. Shehi Moor is our mountain behind us. Daybreak stirs on Shehi Moor. The heathers whisper the purple weather. Across the mountain bog, the mist's soft syllables caress the cotton grasses. Watery hollows are slow open vowels, echoing a changing sky, and rills in pencil lines cross-hatch the hillside falls. When hen harriers rise, the sky dance of their wings is the sacred imprint of these skies. this little sonnet is for my daughter Imogen. When we went up, Cyprus is an extraordinary island. It's about the size of Cork and Kerry, and the Troodos mountain range goes up to about 6,000 feet, more than twice the height of Carrauntoohil. So in the winter, you can go up and there's 3 meters of snow and a very short ski run, about 30 seconds on the north face, a little bit longer on the south face. And you can ski in the morning and drive 45 minutes and go swimming in the evening. So we took Imogen up to see the snow and up on Troodos. So this is Imo. You were small when you first saw Troodos snow. You thrilled to catch falling flakes on your outstretched tongue. The tingling communion made you laugh like tuned bells ringing. And when you turned, the snowflakes threading your dark hair looked like a veil of jasmine flowers, gifted with a new season. Hugh mentioned that we were evicted from our house at gunpoint during the intercommunal troubles in Cyprus. And I wrote a poem about that experience. And I don't want to give you a history lesson, but the British were very good at divide and conquer. And they left the island in 1959. It gained independence in 1960, and they left a constitution that was unworkable. And it was parity of esteem. So if you had a Greek president, you had a Turkish Cypriot vice president. If you had, it worked that way. Chief of police, deputy chief of police, and so on. And they weren't rotating. And also the Turkish Cypriots had the right to veto. And so for 3 years there wasn't a single bill passed in Parliament, and people got more and more frustrated. It so happened that we were living in a cosmopolitan area of Nicosia, which was with Greek and Turkish Cypriot neighbours, and we had a rather large house, and they came to commandeer it. So I have 2 friends in the poem, and Mikis is Greek, and Errol is Turkish. So through slatted shutters, Nicosia, December 1963. A few days before Christmas, it had been clear and cold. It had been all week. Time enough to perfect cornering on my racing green rally bike, the pedals sparking the tarmac. That morning was to have been more practice with Mikis and Errol, mastering the art of look, no hands riding. And that morning, sunlight poured through slatted shutters. Shadows raked the walls. The pattern as regular as the bullet holes in the veranda from the night's street fighting. And I slept through it all. The strafing of houses, the submachine gun gunfire, the shootings and reprisals. Cypriot neighbours, Turk and Greek, cowering in our basement. Through the slatted shutters I saw them, Turkish militiamen, a moving line owning the field. They came to commandeer our house, allowing us our last breakfast at gunpoint. I can still feel my father's hand, its imprint on my shoulder, and the cark my mother carried. That December morning, we left by the kitchen door, passing under the orange tree. My father, looking up, said, "No other oranges will ever taste as sweet." And I saw at that moment clearly how the ripe oranges gleamed, blossom and fruit on the same tree. So we ended up that night in a hotel, and my mother, being my mother, decided that she was going to do something about it. And so this is at Checkpoint Charlie, Lydra Palace Hotel, and it's a diptych. Now, there's a Checkpoint Charlie in Berlin, but there's also a Checkpoint Charlie in Nicosia, and it's the buffer zone between northern Cyprus, northern Nicosia, which is Turkish Cypriot, and the south, which is Greek Cypriot. And right in between the two zones, there's the Lydra Palace Hotel. And so we lived about 3 miles on the Turkish side of that buffer zone. And this is, it starts with a little dialogue between my mother and my father. "You're a reckless woman," he said. "We can't just leave them there in Neapolis," she replied. "We have to fetch them south. I'll badge the car with a Red Cross flag. They wouldn't harm a woman and a boy." At the time, I was too young to know what all this meant. Those words stuck, though, and the subsequent event. And now, this is 50 years later, and I'm there with peers in the buffer zone. A stone's throw from here, at a makeshift roadblock, manned with guns, the ice factory on our right, every window shattered. A loud young Turk, edgy for revenge, threatened my mother, pressing a knife against her neck as if he'd draw a crescent moon in red across her throat. Between sobbing sisters, Mickey sat in the back seat, clutching his leather football. His mother crossed herself, praying in a frantic Greek. If anger bangs behind the eyes like a bag of blood, and terror's a suffocating veil of black, when my mother refused to unlock her door, I saw her knuckles grip. Courage at that moment turned bone white. I know now what crisis means, words like balance and knife edge, but then it was the wince and fling of wild and startled eyes. Perhaps it was the car badged with a Red Cross flag, some woman and 2 boys, but a uniformed arm at last waved us tensely on. Here at the Lydra Palace, all was relief and dread. My mother sat in silence. Blood was on her collar, staining where it spread. The Lydra Palace Hotel, 5 decades now and a war since, is Checkpoint Charlie, is still the buffer zone between identities through which we cross from south to north. The way is lined by houses and shops. These are roofless, some are overgrown. The limestone walls are flesh-coloured and pockmarked with bullet holes. Rooms are scorched, blackened and braced, armatures of burnt timbers. They are scarred and bruised. An agama lizard scuttles along the walls, perfectly at home amongst these ruins, these contested relics, carrying memory like a cross, a museum installation only the weather disturbs. For a few moments we are alone on the road, and in my mind the past snags like skin on barbed wire. It is a no man's land, the buffer zone between my childhood innocence and experience. A motorbike speeds by, a young couple laughing. She rides pillion side saddle, arms clasped around his waist. Then a car of summer revelers rigged for a Kyrenia swim. A child with them waves through the rear window. I wave my hand in reply, and in doing so raise my hand to the Pendedactylos mountains. It feels like a holy palmer's kiss. Just to give you a sense of the geography, there's the central plain of Cyprus, and then there's this limestone mountain range rises to about 3,000 feet very sharply, and right at one, in the center of it, is a peak of five peaks very close together, and they're called the Bendedactylos, the five-finger mountain. So when I raise, it felt like, in Romeo and Juliet, there's a holy palmer's kiss when they touch palms.